Emily Lawson was the pride of Napa Valley, a woman known for her charm, skill, and love of the vineyards, but behind her bright smile, danger was silently closing in. Michael Harlow, the respected vineyard owner everyone trusted, had been watching her every move, plotting a plan so dark that no one could have imagined it. What happened next would shatter the peace of the entire town and reveal a nightmare hidden in plain sight. Napa Valley had always been a place where time seemed to slow down. The rolling hills were covered in endless rows of grapevines, and the air carried the sweet scent of ripening fruit and sun-warmed soil. The townspeople prided themselves on their community, knowing each neighbor by name and trusting in the safety of their quiet streets. Tourists wandered the wineries during the day. Photographers captured the golden sunsets, and life felt simple and secure. But that illusion of safety was shattered one summer morning. A local jogger, following his usual route through the wooded trails behind a popular winery, noticed something unusual near the edge of the forest. The car parked off the path looked abandoned, doors swinging in the gentle breeze, and the interior was in disarray. At first, he thought it was a minor accident, perhaps a car broken down or someone simply careless. But as he approached, the reality became chillingly clear. There were signs of a violent struggle, objects thrown across the seats, shattered glass scattered across the ground, and deep scratches on the car doors. The air seemed to thicken, and an uneasy silence pressed down on the area, as if the forest itself had been holding its breath. Word spread quickly through the town. By midday, police had cordoned off the area, and news crews began to arrive, broadcasting images of the eerie scene to viewers far beyond Napa Valley. The town had never faced anything like this before. For a place known for peace, this violent incident felt incomprehensible, almost surreal. Everyone wanted answers, but there were none. There were no fingerprints, no forced entry, and no witnesses to explain what had happened. The absence of clues only heightened the fear, leaving residents anxious and suspicious of even familiar faces. As investigators combed through the car and surrounding forest, the mystery deepened. What had led to this attack? Who could commit such a calculated act in the middle of a serene town? The questions hung in the warm summer air, unanswered, and growing heavier with each passing hour. Even the seasoned detectives on the case felt a sense of unease, sensing that the peaceful veneer of Napa Valley had been shattered, and that behind the beauty of the vineyards, something dark and sinister had been quietly waiting to emerge. The quiet town, so accustomed to safety and routine, was about to discover just how fragile their world really was. Investigators quickly identified the victim as Emily Lawson, a 32-year-old sommelier known for her expertise and passion for wine. She had worked at some of Napa Valley's most prestigious wineries and was admired for her dedication and warm personality. On the surface, Emily's life seemed perfect. She lived in a charming home near the vineyards, had a close circle of friends, and spent her days surrounded by the beauty of Napa. To the outside world, she appeared content and fulfilled. But as police began to investigate her personal life, a much darker picture started to emerge. It didn't take long for detectives to uncover disturbing signs that Emily had been in danger long before her death. Anonymous threats had been sent to her over the past several months, emails, letters, and phone calls with no identifiable sender. The messages were vague but menacing, warning her to leave town and hinting that someone was watching her every move. Friends and neighbors were shocked. Emily had never mentioned any danger, and no one could imagine why anyone would target her. Her life, so full of routine and familiarity, had secretly been shadowed by fear. Police also discovered that Emily had a small group of personal journals hidden in a locked drawer in her home. Within the pages, she documented moments of anxiety, encounters with strangers who seemed to follow her, and strange occurrences she couldn't explain. It became clear that someone had been trying to intimidate her, testing her courage and patience. The more detectives read, the more they realized Emily had been living with a constant, quiet terror, keeping it from the people who cared about her most. The contrast between her public life and her private fear added a chilling layer to the investigation. How could a person so beloved and respected be silently targeted in a town that prided itself on safety and community? The sense of unease grew as detectives pieced together her daily routines and discovered that the threats were timed to coincide with moments when she was alone. Someone had studied her habits, learned her patterns, and waited for the perfect opportunity to strike. Emily had been caught in a trap carefully laid by an unknown predator, and the realization left investigators and the town grappling with a terrifying truth. Beneath the picturesque vineyards and sunny skies, darkness had been quietly closing in, waiting for the right moment to destroy the illusion of safety forever. The investigation soon turned toward the sprawling vineyards that surrounded Napa Valley, a labyrinth of sun-drenched hills and hidden pathways. Detectives began to examine the areas Emily frequented most, looking for clues that might explain how someone could orchestrate such a violent attack without leaving obvious traces. It was during these searches that a breakthrough occurred. Surveillance cameras from several neighboring wineries previously overlooked revealed a shadowy figure moving through the fields in the early hours of the morning. The footage was unclear, grainy at best, but it was enough to confirm that someone had been watching Emily, following her without drawing attention. As investigators scoured the vineyards, they began to uncover items that seemed insignificant at first, but quickly painted a disturbing picture. A torn glove lay hidden in the tall grass, a single earring glinted in the morning sunlight, and a broken wine bottle rested near a tree line, smeared with dirt and fingerprints. Each piece alone could have been dismissed, but together they suggested meticulous planning. Forensic tests on the glove revealed traces of a potent poison, confirming that whoever had targeted Emily had not acted on impulse. They had studied her routines, observed her alone, and planned every step of the attack to avoid detection. The more detectives explored the vineyards, the more they realized the level of surveillance Emily had been under. Paths she had walked for years suddenly became part of a sinister network of observation, with hidden cameras, listening devices, and discarded evidence marking the route of her final hours. Investigators began to suspect that the perpetrator had intimate knowledge of the area, moving confidently through the fields as if claiming the land as their own. The thought that someone so familiar with the vineyards could hide in plain sight unsettled even the most experienced officers. The case was no longer just about Emily. It had become a warning to the entire town. The idyllic scenery, the rolling hills, and the quiet streets, all of it masked a predator who could strike at any moment. Residents, once proud of their community's safety, now felt a creeping paranoia. Everyone wondered who could have done this and whether they were still lurking nearby, watching. Each new clue in the vineyard revealed the terrifying truth. Emily's death was not a random act of violence, but the result of careful observation and planning, and the person responsible was still out there hidden among the vines waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike again. As the investigation deepened, detectives began to examine everyone in Emily's circle, from colleagues to acquaintances, searching for someone who had motive, opportunity, and the means to carry out such a calculated crime. Days turned into weeks and leads initially seemed thin. Then, a series of financial records caught the attention of the investigators. The documents revealed a secret partnership between Emily and Michael Harlow, a respected vineyard owner whose reputation in Napa Valley was impeccable. Michael was well known for his generosity, his charm, and his apparent devotion to preserving the town's community spirit. No one could have imagined that he might be connected to such a violent act. The partnership, it appeared, had soured over a rare collection of wines that Emily had inherited from her family. Michael had invested heavily in the vineyards, expecting the inheritance to be part of a business deal he considered his due. When Emily resisted, tensions escalated quietly, under the radar of the public eye. Investigators discovered emails between the two, increasingly hostile, and evidence that Michael had taken steps to monitor Emily's movements, including surveillance equipment placed strategically around her favorite routes and the vineyards she often visited. The realization was chilling. Someone so admired by the community had been meticulously plotting behind a mask of civility. Further examination revealed that Michael had manipulated the surveillance systems at his vineyard, erasing footage that could have implicated him in Emily's disappearance. Each new piece of evidence painted a portrait of obsession and control. He had not only studied Emily's routines but had also created contingencies to cover his tracks, demonstrating careful planning and a cold, calculating mindset. The investigators began to see the murder not as a sudden crime of passion, but as the climax of months of deliberate manipulation and surveillance. News of the connection to Michael Harlow sent shockwaves through Napa Valley. Residents who had once greeted him warmly at community events began to view him with suspicion. The man who embodied the town's image of safety and trust was now at the center of a dark and disturbing investigation. For the police, the case was entering its most critical phase. They had found their suspect, but the depth of Michael's deception, his ability to hide in plain sight, and the meticulous nature of his planning made the next steps apprehending him and gathering undeniable evidence extremely delicate. The quiet town, once thought immune to such horrors, was now forced to confront the terrifying reality that evil could exist even behind the most respectable facade. The arrest of Michael Harlow marked a turning point in the investigation, but it was only the beginning of uncovering the full extent of the crime. When police searched his sprawling estate, they discovered a hidden wine cellar that had been carefully concealed behind a false wall. Inside, detectives found an astonishing collection of evidence: encrypted journals documenting every detail of Emily's routines, photographs taken secretly over months, and meticulously drafted plans outlining how her life would be controlled and ultimately ended. The level of obsession and premeditation was staggering, revealing a mind consumed with power, control, and revenge. As the trial began, the people of Napa Valley followed every detail with a mixture of horror and disbelief. Witnesses described Michael's charming public persona, contrasting it sharply with the manipulative and sinister private man revealed through emails, journals, and forensic evidence. The prosecution presented a clear picture of a man who had not only murdered Emily, but had also turned the town's idyllic image into a cover for his own dark intentions. The courtroom became a stage where the community confronted the shocking duality of a man they had trusted and admired for years. Throughout the trial, Emily's bravery and resilience came to light. Her efforts to protect herself, to notice and document the threats, and to maintain normalcy in her life despite the danger, revealed a courage that had been overlooked in the early stages of the investigation. The jury saw that this was not a random act of violence, but a deliberate attempt to dominate and erase a life. Michael Harlow's meticulous planning, coupled with his ability to manipulate those around him, had almost succeeded in silencing Emily forever. When the verdict was finally delivered, Michael was found guilty on multiple counts, including first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted with a mix of relief, sorrow, and lingering disbelief. Though justice had been served, the case left a permanent mark on Napa Valley. Residents who had once walked freely through vineyards now did so with a heightened awareness, a reminder that darkness could exist even in the most serene and picturesque places. As the town slowly began to heal, the story of Emily Lawson and Michael Harlow remained a chilling lesson. Appearances can be deceiving, and evil can thrive behind a mask of charm and respectability. Napa Valley would never again be seen as untouched or safe. The nightmare that had unfolded among the vineyards had revealed a harsh truth: the world can change in a single moment, and even paradise can hide horrors waiting to emerge.